10 years ago, if someone told you a Chinese car company would build an SUV with 1,180 horsepower that can spin like a tank, drive through a flood, and float on water for half an hour, you would have laughed them out of the room. But that vehicle exists right now. And it is just one of 7 cars coming out of China that have completely rewritten the rules of what a vehicle can do. Here are the 7 Chinese cars that broke the car industry. Number 7. The BYD Seal, the car with the unkillable battery. Every few months you see a headline about an electric car bursting into flames. It is the #1 fear people have about electric vehicles. Standard lithium batteries can hit 500 degrees Celsius in a catastrophic failure. That is hot enough to melt aluminum. BYD, the largest electric vehicle maker on the planet, decided to solve this at the cell level. They developed the Blade battery, a lithium iron phosphate cell shaped like a long, thin blade that slots directly into the pack without intermediate modules. This cell-to-pack design increased space utilization by over 50%, and BYD made every single one of their pure electric vehicles use it. The Han, the Seal, the Dolphin, the entire lineup. Then BYD did something no other manufacturer was willing to do on camera. They ran the nail penetration test, a steel nail driven straight through the battery cell to simulate a catastrophic short circuit. With a standard lithium battery, this triggers a violent chain reaction: smoke, flames, temperatures past 500 degrees. The Blade battery: 0 smoke, 0 fire. Surface temperature between 30 and 60 degrees Celsius. You could pick it up moments after the nail went through. They also crushed it, bent it, heated it in a furnace to 300 degrees, and overcharged it by 260%. Not a single fire. And just this month, BYD launched the 2nd generation Blade with even faster charging and higher energy density. Every BYD you see on the road is riding on this technology. Number 6. The Zeekr 007, the fastest charging production car on Earth. Range anxiety is one thing, but the real problem with electric cars has always been how long you have to stand at a charger waiting. Zeekr, a premium brand under the Geely umbrella, decided to just demolish that problem entirely. The 2025 Zeekr 007 uses the 2nd generation Golden battery, an in-house lithium iron phosphate pack running on an 800-volt architecture. It charges from 10 to 80% in 10.5 minutes. That is not a lab test or a concept. That is the production car, sitting at a Zeekr charging station right now. To give you a sense of how far ahead this is, a 15-minute charge on a Tesla supercharger gives you roughly 200 miles of range. The Zeekr does more than that in about 10.5 minutes. And if you option the larger 100 kilowatt-hour CATL Keelan battery, you get over 870 kilometers of range on a full charge. The car itself is no slouch either. The all-wheel drive performance version hits 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.84 seconds, which puts it in supercar territory. And the whole thing starts at the equivalent of about $29,000 in China. Try finding anything in Europe or America that charges this fast at any price. Number 5. The NIO ES6, the car that never needs to charge. What if you never had to plug in your electric car at all? NIO, the Chinese premium electric vehicle maker, took a completely different approach to the charging problem. Instead of making batteries charge faster, they made them swappable. You drive your NIO into one of their battery swap stations. A robotic platform drops out your depleted battery pack from underneath the car, slides in a fully charged one, and you drive away. The whole process with their 4th generation stations takes about 2.5 minutes. That is faster than filling a gas tank at a busy pump. And this is not some small experiment. NIO operates over 3,700 swap stations across China, more than 1,000 along highways. They have completed over 100 million battery swaps since the service launched. On a busy day, A freshly charged vehicle leaves a NIO station every single second. They recently partnered with CATL to keep expanding, and fifth-generation stations are rolling out that support multiple brands. NIO says their swap users have collectively saved close to $3 billion in energy costs compared to driving equivalent gasoline vehicles. And because you always get a fresh pack, you never deal with the battery degradation that traditional electric vehicle owners worry about after years of daily charging. Number 4. The Xiaomi SU7. The phone that became a car. When Xiaomi announced they were building a car, the automotive industry did not take it seriously. A smartphone company making vehicles? Apple spent a decade and billions trying before quietly giving up. Xiaomi delivered their first SU7 in March 2024. By year-end, they had shipped over 400,000 units and hit profitability in the automotive division within 18 months. Tesla took years to reach that milestone. The SU7 runs on the same HyperOS operating system as Xiaomi phones and tablets. Your phone screen mirrors directly onto the 16.1-inch center display. Apps run natively at 60 frames per second. You can control your entire Xiaomi smart home from the dashboard. Leaving for work? One tap and your robot vacuum starts cleaning. Your lights adjust. Your thermostat changes, all from the car screen. Jim Farley, the chief executive officer of Ford, tested a Xiaomi SU7 for 6 months. His quote was blunt. He said Xiaomi's software integration is well above what Ford offers today. That is the head of one of America's oldest car companies admitting a phone maker built a better cockpit. The performance is not a joke either. The top-spec SU7 Max does 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.78 seconds. The Ultra variant set a production electric car lap record at the Nürburgring, beating vehicles from Porsche and other European manufacturers. All of this starts at the equivalent of about $28,000 in China. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. I cover deep dives like this every week, digging into the cars and the industry shifts that most channels do not touch. Now, the top 3. And these are the ones that really change everything. Number 3. The BYD Denza Z9 GT. 10 minutes from dead to full. You know how I said the Zeekr charges fast? BYD looked at that and decided to go further. The Denza Z9 GT is BYD's luxury electric wagon, and it pairs the second-generation Blade battery with new flash charging stations that pump out 1,500 kilowatts of power. To put that in context, 10 of those chargers produce enough electricity to supply a small town. In a live demonstration, the Z9 GT plugged in at 9% battery. 9 minutes and 51 seconds later, it hit 97%. The range display showed over 1,000 kilometers. 5 minutes alone added roughly 400 kilometers. That is the kind of charging speed that makes the whole takes too long argument completely irrelevant. BYD plans to install over 20,000 of these flash charging stations across China. The technology is already shipping on multiple production models, including the Han L sedan and the Tang L SUV. While legacy automakers talk about building out charging networks someday, BYD is deploying theirs at industrial scale right now. Number 2. The Avatar 11. The car that Huawei taught to drive itself. Huawei does not build cars. They do something arguably more disruptive. They build the brains that go inside other people's cars. The Avatar 11 is a luxury electric SUV jointly developed by Changan, CATL, and Huawei. It was the first production vehicle to ship with the full Huawei Inside Smart Driving solution. 34 sensors feed the system, including 3 LiDARs, 6mm wave radars, and 13 high-definition cameras, all running through a computing platform with 400 TOPS of processing power. For reference, Tesla's full self-driving computer runs at 36 TOPS. The Huawei ADS system handles highway navigation, city driving, lane changes, U-turns, and complex intersections without relying on pre-mapped routes. It interprets road conditions in real time. Park the Avatar, walk away, and it will find an open spot and park itself. Call it from an app, and the car drives to pick you up. In testing, the system navigates over 30 types of complex intersections with a success rate above 95%. Inside, the cabin runs Huawei's Harmony OS on a 15.6-inch center screen with a 25-speaker Meridian audio system. It feels less like a car interior and more like a living room that moves at highway speed. Here is the cultural difference that matters. In China, 85% of consumers say they are comfortable with autonomous driving that requires no human supervision. In America, that number is 39%. Chinese automakers are building for an audience that actually wants this, and they are iterating at a pace Western manufacturers simply cannot match. And now, number 1. The Yangwang U8, the SUV that floats. Everything else on this list has been impressive, but this is the car that broke my brain. The Yangwang U8 is BYD's flagship luxury SUV, and calling it just a car feels like selling it short. 4 independent electric motors, one at each wheel, produce a combined 1,180 horsepower. 0 to 100 in 3.6 seconds. The whole thing weighs nearly 3.5 tons. All of it sits on a body on frame chassis with active hydraulic suspension that adjusts ground clearance by nearly 6 inches. Because each motor operates independently, the U8 can do something called a tank turn. The wheels on one side spin forward, while the wheels on the other side spin backward, and the entire SUV rotates 360 degrees on the spot. When BYD chairman Wang Chuanfu demonstrated this live on stage, the audience lost it. The vehicle looks like it is defying physics. The off-road credentials are dead serious. 13 electronically controlled terrain modes, over 1 meter of wading depth without a snorkel, nearly 1.5 meters with one. Approach and departure angles that rival purpose-built off-road trucks. But the feature that sent this car viral around the world is the emergency flotation mode. If you drive into water deeper than the U8 can wade, onboard sensors automatically raise the suspension, shut down the range-extending engine, close all windows, switch the climate system to recirculation, and pop open the sunroof as an emergency exit. Then the sealed electric motors spin the wheels underwater to push the vehicle back to dry ground. BYD says the U8 stays afloat for up to 30 minutes. The combined range using both the battery and the fuel tank is 1,000 kilometers. The armrest cubby cools to -5 degrees Celsius or heats to 60 degrees Celsius. And BYD recently launched the U8L, a stretched version with 3-row seating, lambswool floor mats, and 24-karat gold badges. Starting price around $150,000. A comparable Range Rover or G-Class costs the same or more, and neither one can float. 10 years ago, Chinese cars were a punchline. Today, these 7 vehicles have technology. The rest of the world is scrambling to copy. The question is not whether Chinese cars will reshape the industry. They already have. The only question left is whether everyone else can catch up fast enough. If you want another deep dive like this, that video on screen has you covered.